Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Matt Bernier. The DRFBets race of the day for Sunday, March the 24th, race number 11 at Sunland Park, Kentucky Derby, qualifying points on the line. In the Grade 3 Sunland Park Derby, going a daunting 9 furlong distance. Sunland Derby's race number 11. You gotta bet number 1, race number 1 at Sunland Park on Sunday, because there's a first post bonus on the preps if you bet with DRFBets. Bet $25 to win on one horse in race number 1. You get a $10 bonus, win or lose. Learn more at drf.com/preps. Here's the field of 3-year-olds getting set to go in the Grade 3 Sunland Park Derby. You can access free formulator past performances on the Race of the Day event page at drf.com. Download them, handicap along with us. We will begin with the morning line favorite and the horse to beat. The number 1, Mucho Gusto, shipping in for trainer Bob Baffert. Perfect trip winner, the Grade 3 Robert B. Lewis last time out over a sloppy track. Never out of the exacta from 4 lifetime starts. Has the pedigree to get a mile and an eighth and should just work out a great trip from the rail.
Yeah, I mean, the beautiful thing here, at least in that Robert Lewis, he showed the dimension of being able to rate where he didn't need to be out there on the lead, cutting out the fractions. And I think that goes a long way with this horse as far as potentially being a Kentucky Derby contender, or a prospect anyway. I suppose on the flip side, you look at that Lewis, and sure, he did it very, very impressively. But when you look and see the field that he beat that day, I'd be lying if I said I loved Gunmetal Gray. He is sort of that one-run kind of closer, plotter, just comes along at the end, void of all early foot. And then Easy Shot. I maintain that he's a one-turn kind of horse. So what did he really beat that day? Did he really pass any sort of an acid test? At 8-5, I can understand folks that want to go against him, but at the same time, I do think he's got a lot going in his favor.
I concur with everything you said. I mean, I like the fact that he showed a rating dimension in the Robert B. Lewis, but that was a 5-horse field to start off with, and one horse went wrong on the backstretch, so he really only had to beat 3 horses, and he did so from right up close to the pace. He does have that female family of peaks and valleys who could go all day long. He's by Breeders' Cup Classic winner Mucho Macho Man. I think another good trip is coming for this horse, but I still think he has some things to prove quality-wise. He just think he's found the right spot for Baffert in here. He's going to be real tough. The 2 is another twist of fate, and he's really the X factor in this race, because another twist of fate was sensational when he won the El Camino Real Derby last time out at this distance at Golden Gate Fields. The problem was it's a synthetic race he's going to run on dirt. The good news is we've got this formulator fact for trainer Blaine Wright. Over the past 5 years, with 3-year-old last out winners moving from synthetic to dirt, 40% winners, and a 4.04 ROI. The things I don't like are A, there's a lot of other pace in this race. B, this is mostly a turf pedigree, and I know Scat Daddy Sire Justified, but this dam is a half to a Grade 3 stakes winning turf horse named Mirabilis, a multiple Group 1 stakes winner on turf named Nebraska Tornado, another Group 2 stakes winner on turf named Burning Sun. This is turf and synth. I don't know if this horse can run on dirt.
I want this horse to be able to handle the main track, probably more so than any horse that we have here as 3-year-olds, because there's a part of me that looks at him and says not only is he the X factor for this race here, but if he can take to the dirt, he's the X factor for all the 3-year-olds, because I think there's legitimate talent here. But you brought it up. I mean, it's hard to argue with the fact that he has gone to another level on synthetic and going 2 turns. So the 2-turn thing, that shouldn't be an issue for him. The question is, what do you want to make of that career debut? They shipped him down to Santa Anita. They tried him at 3/4 of a mile, and it just didn't work. But at the same time, that was his career debut. I don't really want to hold that against him. He probably wanted longer all along. They stretched him out in distance. Sure, he might have swapped his leads a little bit down the lane in the El Camino, but I thought visually he was awesome. I want this horse to run very, very well on Sunday. I don't know if he's going to or not, though.
If the number 3 Hustle Up makes it 9 for 11 lifetime and 5 for 5 at Sunland Park, the roof is going to blow off the plant at Sunland Park, because this is the home horse. This is the New Mexico bred. He just beat 5 of these common foes when wiring them in the Mind That Bird Derby last time out. And Timeform US believes he's going to make the lead, but he's going to have to go fast to do it.
Yeah, look, you got to just tip your cap and say he's 8 for 10. What else is there to say? He wins races. I didn't like the Mind That Bird Derby at all. I suppose you can look at it and say he's controlling speed, and who knows, maybe he can do it again. He would do it without me. He's 5-1 in the morning line. You have to respect a horse that just goes out and wins races. I don't want anyone out of the Mind That Bird Derby.
If I want anyone out of the Mind That Derby, it's the 4 Wicked Indeed, who was the beaten favorite at 9-10 that day. I thought in that race he had to move early. He was kind of stuck wide and in between horses. A horse loomed outside of him on the backstretch. It just forced Luis Contreras' hand. And he came with a 5-wide bid late on the backstretch, was 4 wide all the way through the turn and into the stretch, while Hustle Up just had an easy lead up front. And he kept grinding and grinding into the margin. He only got beat a length that day. I thought his prior effort against the real rock-solid War of Will was an okay race in the Grade 3 Lecomte. I think from a class standpoint, maybe he's not of Mucho Gusto's level, but I think he's going to get a fast pace to rally into. He's got a big pedigree by Tappett's, a full sister to My Miss Lily, who was a graded stakes winner at 1 1/8 miles. I want to give this horse one more chance. Maybe he's not this good, but I think things went against him in the Mind That Bird Derby.
I agree. If you want someone coming out of it from a sort of race shape standpoint, he's probably the one. The pedigree is there for him to appreciate the distance. I just have been underwhelmed by everything I've seen from this horse. I've expected him to do more, whether it was at the Fairgrounds 2 starts back, whether it was in that Mind That Bird Derby, which again, he did have a little bit of a hiccup, maybe not the best of situations, having to make that sort of middle move, but I've just been so underwhelmed with him. I'm not going to get on now.
5 is Cutting Humor, going out for trainer Todd Pletcher. This is a half to the stakes-winning dirt router I Wish You Well. Cutting Humor was the beaten favorite in the Grade 3 Southwest last time out. He is still learning. He gets a little bit rank. He gets a little bit uncomfortable in behind horses, and I think it's incumbent on John Velazquez to get him out in the clear with no dirt in his face. I think there's a lot of potential here for this horse, and the Southwest has so far come back okay. Long Range Toddy pulling off a big upset in one of the divisions of the Rebel last week with a 95 buyer.
To be honest, I think you're supposed to, well, maybe you're not supposed to draw a line through the Southwest, but I think you're supposed to be really, really kind to him, because early on going into the first turn, he got all bottlenecked in behind horses. And like you say, with a horse that's already a little headstrong, he just a powder keg. He was done at that point, throwing his head about. He finally gets into the clear. He pulls going down the backside and he looms up, and there's just nothing left in the tank when the real running begins. I more or less want to just give him the benefit of the doubt there. If he runs something close to that run at Gulfstream 2 back, where you see he wasn't disgraced by Bourbon War, who might be one of the favorites for the Florida Derby here next weekend, there's a part of me that thinks that this Cutting Humor, like you say, I think there's potential here. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Pletcher and Velazquez win this thing.
The 6 is Walker Stalker, a horse that finished 3rd in the Mind That Bird Derby, utilizing stalking tactics. Just was no match for Hustle Up and Wicked Indeed. Still a good performance at 45-1, especially considering it was only start number 3. Distance is not going to be an issue for this horse. He has a very long-winded pedigree, also a turfy pedigree. I'd like to see this horse on the grass down the road. He's by the grass-loving Stroll. Dam was a stakes-winning turf router at 9 furlongs. I think this horse works out another good trip, probably sitting in the second flight. I'd use him underneath only.
I was going to say, I think from a trip standpoint, it works out for him. The question now is he this good? I think he works out that nice sort of situation, and maybe he can get a minor award here.
Maiden is the number 7, Pasamonte Man. Really not sure how far he wants to go. Picked up some pieces in the Mind That Bird Derby to finish 4th in his first start with blinkers. Just doesn't have a lot of early speed, so he's going to need a pace collapse, and I'm not sure he's the best closer in the race anyway.
I was going to say, if you're looking for a closer specifically coming out of that Mind That Bird Derby, you would probably more inclined to go with Wicked Indeed over this one.
The 8 is Collusionist. This is a Colorado bred with a little bit of pedigree. The dam's a half to the Grade 1 stakes winning sprinter Idiot Proof. They tried 2 turns in the Mind That Bird Derby. It didn't work out at 63-1. I think this horse will eventually be more effective at shorter distances.
Taking another shot in here, I suppose maybe a minor award, but I think that would be the ceiling.
Don't think Diamond Blitz is good enough to win this race. Heck, he's running selling races for all 6 prior starts, but he was in against a real tough one named Roadster last time out. We'll probably see him in the Santa Anita Derby for trainer Bob Baffert. And Diamond Blitz has speed, which means if the 2 or the 3 want to go out there for the lead, they're going to have to deal with Diamond Blitz early, and maybe he takes the starch out of those horses. The dam's a half to a Grade 3 place turf router. His only win came on the turf. I'm going to wait for him to go back down the hill.
He's going to be forwardly placed in here. There's no question about it. I think that's the only way that they can really ride him. You need to be aggressive early on. But I think there's a serious case to be made that the non-winners of one other than race he ran in last time is a tougher field than this one, with Roadster and Nolo Contesto in there. Both of them may end up in the Santa Anita Derby, as you alluded to. In an odd way, this might be a little bit of class relief for this horse.
10 is iCloud. Beautiful pedigree by point of entry. The dam a foal to 3-time Grade 1 stakes winner Raging Fever. Just hasn't proven it against stakes horses. Every time they've thrown him to the wolves, he's been well beaten, and he was listed as a vet scratch at Delta Downs on March the 7th. I'm going to stay away.
Yeah, through 8 lifetime starts, a career best figure of 60. I mean, that kind of says all you need to know.
Top picks for the Grade 3 Sunland Derby. Baffert got shut out in the Rebel last weekend. Doesn't usually happen often for Bob in these races. Matt, you're going with the number 1, Mucho Gusto in here. He is simply way the horse to beat, and he should just trip out from the rail.
I think you let the speeds go. I think you just ease him off the rail if you're Joe Talamo. For some reason, if people aren't intent on going, you know you have the early foot that can go on with it. To be honest, I'm rooting more for the 2 horse.
Right.
I want Another Twist of Fate to actually be a dirt horse and be a true Kentucky Derby contender. I just don't know that I want to find out at a short number. So I went with Mucho Gusto. And then with Cutting Humor, I think there is something here. Hopefully he works at a decent enough trip. I went 1-5-2-4.
1-5-2-4 for Matt. I want to give Wicked Indeed one more chance. He obviously has to run the fastest race of his career if he is to pull off this upset, but I think he will benefit from a fast pace up front. I have enough faith in this pedigree that 1 1/8 is okay for him, and I just think he's had learning trips in his last 2 races. The Lecomte breaking from the rail, down inside, taking a lot of dirt, finishing evenly in between horses. Last time out, forced to go 4 wide all the way through the turn into the stretch and still gaining late. I think there's something here for Wicked Indeed. Maybe he's not good enough, but I think he offers a little value at 6-1 on the morning line. 4-2-1-5 for me in the Grade 3 Sunland Derby, your Sunday race of the day. And remember to bet race number 1 at Sunland on Sunday for your first post bonus on the preps. Bet $25 to win on 1 horse in race number 1. Get a $10 bonus, win or lose. With DRFBets, it's as easy as ready, set, bet. An approximate post time for the Sunland Derby on Sunday, 5:30 Mountain. Best of luck.